I envisioned my wedding as the start of my happily ever after. Standing before the ornate cheval glass in the bridal suite, everything appeared flawless. The venue, a sprawling estate steeped in history. The ivory gown, a masterpiece of lace and silk, and the joyous energy that vibrated through the very air. Today, I was to marry Julian, the man I believed was my destiny. Yet, moments before I was to walk down the aisle, his formidable mother, Eleanor, stormed in, her accusations poised to shatter my world. A venomous confrontation erupted, culminating in a devastating betrayal from Julian himself. That single, shocking slap, delivered mere minutes before my wedding vows, marked the beginning of a descent into a nightmare I could never have foreseen. I never imagined my fairy tale wedding would turn into my worst nightmare. Standing in front of the antique mirror in my bridal suite, I watched as my best friend, Ashley, carefully adjusted my veil. The air was electric with excitement. After all, this was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. "Scarlett, you look absolutely stunning," Ashley whispered, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. I smiled back at her through the mirror, my hands trembling slightly as I smoothed the delicate lace of my dress. It was perfect. Everything was perfect. The venue, a gorgeous historic mansion, surrounded by lush gardens, was exactly what I dreamed of since I was a little girl. The morning had been flawless. The makeup artist had worked her magic, transforming me into what felt like a princess. The bridesmaids, dressed in soft pink, were laughing, taking selfies, and sharing excited whispers. Even the weather seemed to cooperate, with the sun shining brightly through the tall windows, casting a golden glow over everything. "5 minutes until we start," the wedding coordinator called from outside the door. My heart skipped a beat. In just moments, I'd be walking down the aisle to marry Julian, the man I'd been with for the past 3 years, the man who proposed to me under the stars at our favourite beach spot. But then, the knock came that would change everything. "Scarlett, dear," came the voice of Eleanor, my soon-to-be mother-in-law. There was a sweetness to her tone, but one I had learned to be wary of. "Could I have a moment with you?" Ashley shot me a concerned look. She knew about the tension between Eleanor and me. Throughout our engagement, Eleanor had been difficult, making little remarks about my background, my career, and how I wasn't quite what she had envisioned for her Julian. But I'd brushed it off, telling myself that today would be different. "Of course, come in," I called out, forcing a smile. The door opened, and there she stood, in her expensive designer dress, pearls gleaming at her neck, her face wearing that familiar, tight smile that never quite reached her eyes. "Girls, could you give us a moment?" she asked, eyeing my bridesmaids. They hesitated, but I nodded, signalling that it was okay. As they filed out, Ashley squeezed my hand reassuringly. The sound of the door closing behind them seemed unnaturally loud, amplifying the silence that settled in. "Scarlett," Eleanor began, walking toward me, her heels clicking against the hardwood floor. "I think we need to have a little chat about the way you've been handling things." Her voice had lost the sugary sweetness, now laced with that cold edge I had come to recognize all too well. I took a deep breath, determined not to let her spoil my day. "Eleanor, I'm not sure what you mean, but can't this wait until after the ceremony? We're about to start." "No, it cannot wait," she cut me off sharply. "Do you think I haven't noticed how you've been turning my son against me? The way you manipulate him, make him take your side in everything." Her voice was rising now, the facade of politeness crumbling completely. I felt my stomach drop. This was not how this day was supposed to go. Through the window, I could hear the excited chatter of guests arriving and the string quartet starting to warm up. Everything was in place for a perfect wedding, except for this moment unfolding in front of me. Little did I know this was just the beginning of how my perfect day would spiral into chaos. That my dream wedding would become the day that changed my life forever, just not in the way I'd expected. "Eleanor, please," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Today is supposed to be about love and family coming together. The white fabric of my dress rustled as I turned to face her fully. Outside, I could still hear the music playing, a cruel contrast to what was happening in this room. Her laugh was sharp, cutting through the air like a knife. "Love? Family? You think you deserve to be part of our family?" She stepped closer, her expensive perfume almost suffocating in the small space. "A small-town girl like you, with your community college degree and your job at that little marketing firm." My hands started trembling, but I balled them into fists at my sides. 3 years of subtle jabs and backhanded compliments had led to this moment. "I love your son, Eleanor, and he loves me. That's all that matters." "Love!" She spat the word out like it was poison. "What do you know about love? You've trapped my son somehow, convinced him that you're worthy of the Sterling family name, but I see right through you." Just then, the door burst open. Julian stood there, handsome in his black tuxedo, his face concerned. "Mom, Scarlett, what's going on? I heard raised voices." Eleanor's face transformed instantly, tears welling up in her eyes. "Oh, Julian, thank goodness you're here. I was just trying to talk to Scarlett about the family business matters, and she just attacked me verbally." "What?" I gasped, completely blindsided by her lie. "That's not true at all, Julian. She came in here and started..." But I never got to finish that sentence. What happened next seemed to unfold in slow motion. Julian's face hardened, his eyes turning cold in a way I'd never seen before. He strode across the room, and before I could react, his hand connected with my cheek in a sharp, singing slap. The sound echoed through the room. My veil slipped slightly, and I stood there frozen, my hand rising to my burning cheek. The perfect bride in the perfect dress, struck by her groom minutes before their wedding. "Don't you dare call my mother a liar," Julian growled, his voice low and dangerous. Eleanor stood behind him, a small satisfied smile playing at the corners of her mouth. The silence that followed was suffocating. Through the open door, I saw Ashley and my other bridesmaids standing frozen, their faces a mixture of shock and confusion. Several guests had stopped by, their mouths agape, witnessing the tension in the room. At that moment, everything hit me like a freight train. The little red flags I had dismissed, the moments where I brushed off Julian's controlling behaviour, his overprotectiveness, all of it came rushing back in a flood. This wasn't just about today, about the wedding. This was who he truly was, and this was who they both were. "Get out," I whispered at first, barely able to hold myself together. My voice, however, grew stronger as I spoke again. "Both of you, get out." "Scarlett, Julian began, his face as pale as realization sank in. But the moment had passed. "Get out," I screamed, my voice reverberating through the empty room. "The wedding is off. Get out before I call the police." They left quickly, Eleanor pulling a bewildered Julian along behind her. As soon as the door shut, I collapsed into Ashley's arms, finally allowing the tears I had been holding back to flow freely. What I didn't know at the time was that this moment, as devastating as it was, would soon reveal even darker secrets. The next day, I received a phone call that would uncover truths I never saw coming. I spent the night at Ashley's apartment, still in my wedding dress, not able to bring myself to take it off. It felt like if I did, it would make everything real, as if somehow the horrific events would vanish. The $3,000 dress that was supposed to be a memory of joy now felt more like a costume from a nightmare. "You need to eat something," Ashley said softly, setting a cup of tea and toast in front of me. I barely glanced at it, my phone buzzing continuously on the coffee table with missed calls from Julian, his mother, family members, and wedding guests. I couldn't face any of it. "I keep replaying it in my mind," I whispered, touching the bruise on my cheek that had started to form. The way he looked at me, like I was nothing, and his mother, that smile, like she was enjoying this. Ashley squeezed my hand in silent support. "I've already taken care of everything. I called the venue, and your parents are handling the rest. You don't have to worry about anything. Just focus on yourself. Around 3 a.m, exhausted from hours of crying, I finally drifted to sleep on Ashley's couch. But at 7 a.m, my phone rang, shattering the quiet. A number I didn't recognise flashed on the screen. Hello? My voice was hoarse, barely more than a whisper. Is this Scarlett Davies? A woman's voice, unfamiliar but urgent, asked. My name is Genevieve Rousseau. I'm Julian's sister-in-law, well, ex-sister-in-law, and there's something you need to know. I sat up, suddenly alert. I had never met Genevieve. Julian had always said his brother's ex-wife was unstable and that they had severed ties with her years ago. I saw what happened on social media, Genevieve continued. People are posting about it. Scarlett, you need to know you're not the first. This is what they do. It's a pattern. My hand shook as I clutched the phone tighter. What do you mean? I asked, the knot in my stomach growing tighter. The wedding day drama, the public humiliation. Eleanor orchestrates it every time. She did it to me 5 years ago, a bit differently then. There was Camille before me. We were all gold diggers, not good enough for the sterling men. Ashley, who had woken up and was now sitting beside me, could hear everything. Her eyes widened as Genevieve continued. But here's what you need to know. It's not just about control. The Sterlings, they're running a scheme. They target women with potential, women with careers or family money. They orchestrate these public breakups or divorces, and then they sue for emotional damage, defamation, or anything they can think of. They've been doing it for years. My mind was spinning. But Julian, we were together for 3 years. Yes, they play the long game. Genevieve's voice was bitter. They make you fall in love, make you trust them. Eleanor picks the targets and her sons execute the plan. But I have proof, Scarlett. Documents, recordings, and bank statements. I've been gathering evidence for years, but I've never found someone brave enough to help me expose them until now. I looked at the bruise on my arm from where Julian had grabbed me after the slap, and something shifted inside me. The hurt and confusion of yesterday transformed into something else. Determination. Send me everything you have, I said, my voice stronger than it had been since the incident. Every single piece of evidence. I'll do better than that, Genevieve replied. I'm in the city, let's meet. There's more you need to know, and it's not safe to talk about over the phone. As I ended the call, Ashley stared at me. Scarlett, what are you thinking? I stood up, finally ready to get out of my wedding dress. I'm thinking it's time to show the Sterlings what happens when they mess with the wrong woman. Little did I know the evidence Genevieve had would reveal a web of deception so intricate it would shake the very foundation of the Sterlings' carefully constructed empire. Ashley insisted on coming with me to meet Genevieve. We chose a quiet cafe in a part of town far from where the Sterlings lived. My hand shook slightly as I stirred my untouched coffee, jumping at every person who walked through the door. Finally, a woman in her mid-30s with straight, dark hair walked in. Even before she introduced herself, I knew it was Genevieve. She had that same haunted look in her eyes that I'd seen in my reflection that morning. Scarlett, she said, quietly sliding into the booth across from us. She placed a thick manila envelope on the table. This is everything I have. With trembling fingers, I opened the envelope. Inside were papers, photos, and USB drives. Tell me everything, I said. Genevieve took a deep breath. It started 8 years ago when I married Tristan, Julian's older brother. Same story, perfect courtship, dream wedding, then the dramatic public incident. But after my divorce, I noticed something strange in our joint accounts. She pulled out several bank statements pointing to highlighted transactions. Look at these deposits, always right after a wedding or divorce drama, always from shell companies. I started the digging and that's when I found Camille. Who's Camille? Ashley asked, leaning forward. Tristan's first wife, same pattern. And before her, there were others, with their cousins, their business partners. The Sterlings don't just marry for love, they marry for profit. They target women with either money or reputation, create a huge public scandal, then destroy them through lawsuits and blackmail. My coffee sat forgotten as I flipped through more documents, photos of other weddings, other brides, news clippings about lawsuits, bank records, show millions of dollars changing hands. But here's where it gets worse, Genevieve continued, lowering her voice. They're not just con artists. They're running a massive fraud scheme through their family business. These weddings, they're just a cover while everyone's focused on the drama. They're moving money, lots of it. She pulled out her phone and showed us a video. It was Eleanor talking to someone off camera. Make sure it happens at the reception. Her voice was clear in the recording. Scarlett's family has connections in the media. Once this goes public, their reputation will be ruined, the lawsuit will be easy. I felt sick. They planned everything down to the last detail. Genevieve nodded. But Scarlett, you did something they didn't expect. You walked away. You didn't beg or make a scene, you kept your dignity. And now we have a chance to stop them. Ashley, who had been quiet, suddenly spoke up. We need to be careful, these people are dangerous. Genevieve's face darkened. Trust me, I know. After I started investigating, my car was broken into my house, was vandalized. They tried to have me committed, claiming I was mentally unstable. So what do we do? I asked, staring at the mountain of evidence in front of me. We build a case, Genevieve said firmly. I have a contact at the FBI's Financial Crimes Division. He's been wanting to investigate the Sterlings for years, but they needed solid evidence and a credible witness. Together, we can bring them down. As I sat there, looking at the proof of their crimes spread across the cafe table, I realised this wasn't just about revenge anymore. This was about justice, about stopping them from hurting anyone else. I'm in, I said, my voice steady, but we need to be smart about this. They're expecting me to fall apart, to hide in shame, so that's exactly what they're going to see while we work behind the scenes. What we didn't realise at the time was that our decision that day would trigger a sequence of events that not only exposed the Sterlings, but also revealed one of the most significant financial fraud schemes the city had ever witnessed. For the next 2 weeks, I played my part to perfection. I stayed home, ignored all calls, and let people assume I was falling apart. Ashley even helped spread rumours about my emotional breakdown, exactly what the Sterlings wanted to hear. But behind closed doors, we were working tirelessly. Genevieve, Ashley, and I turned my apartment into a strategy hub. Papers covered every surface, timelines sprawled across the walls, and we spent countless hours combing through every shred of evidence. Look at this, Genevieve said one evening, spreading out more documents on the kitchen table. Every time they orchestrated a wedding scandal, they made a huge business deal right after. While everyone was focused on the gossip, they were moving millions through their company. I stared at my laptop screen, scanning through old news articles. I found another one, I called out, my voice trembling. Remember Claudia Pierce? She was supposed to marry their cousin Michael in 2019. Same story, public humiliation at the wedding, followed by lawsuits. She moved to another country afterward. Ashley, who was juggling her regular job during the day and helping us at night, walked in carrying takeout bags. I've got something too, she said, pulling out her phone. My friend at the courthouse helped me access public records. The Sterlings have filed 17 lawsuits against former brides or their families in the last decade. 17 women, I whispered, feeling sick. How had they gotten away with this for so long? Genevieve looked up from the papers, her expression hard. Money, power, and fear. Most of the victims were too embarrassed or scared to fight back. The few who tried were crushed by their legal team. Just then, my phone buzzed. It was Julian. After 10 days of silence, he was finally calling. I put the phone on speaker and gave the others a silent signal to stay quiet. Scarlett. His voice was soft, apologetic. Baby, please talk to me. What happened at the wedding? I'm so sorry, I wasn't myself. Mom told me everything, how you threatened her. how you've been spreading lies about our family. I had to bite my tongue to stop myself from screaming. Ashley squeezed my hand, offering her silent support. The lawyers think we can work this out, Julian continued. Just come meet with us. We can fix this. Taking a deep breath, I replied in my best broken voice. I need more time, Julian. I'm not ready. Of course, baby. Take all the time you need. Just don't talk to anyone about what happened, okay? For both our sakes. After hanging up, I looked at Genevieve. Are they making their move, Onyaujikishis? I asked. She nodded. This is good. While they think you're vulnerable, we can keep gathering evidence. But Scarlett, her face turned serious, we need to move faster. They won't wait forever. That's when Ashley came up with an idea that would change everything. What if we set a trap? She said, her eyes lighting up. Give them exactly what they want, a chance to manipulate and threaten Scarlett. But this time, we'll be ready. The plan started taking shape. We would need hidden cameras, recording devices, and most importantly, we would need help from someone on the inside. That's when I remembered Hilda the Sterling's longtime housekeeper, who had given me a sympathetic look right after the slap. She sees everything, I said, and I don't think she likes what they do. What we didn't know was that Hilda wouldn't just help us. She would give us the final piece of evidence we needed to bring the entire Sterling Empire crashing down. Approaching Hilda wasn't easy. The Sterlings monitored all their staff closely, but Ashley noticed she shopped at the local farmers market every Saturday morning. That's where I found her pretending to look at tomatoes while my heart pounded in my chest. Hilda, I whispered, not looking directly at her. She stiffened but kept examining vegetables. I need your help. I could lose my job, she murmured back, moving to the next stall. I have kids in college. I know about the others, I said softly. Camille, Claudia, Genevieve. How many more have there been that we don't know about? Hilda's hands trembled slightly as she picked up an apple too many. I've worked for them for 15 years, seen too much, the crying brides, the threats, the late-night meeting. She paused. Eleanor's office, that's where they keep everything, the real records. My heart skipped a beat. The office is locked, isn't it? Yes, but Hilda glanced around nervously. She keeps the key in a false bottom drawer in the kitchen. On Tuesday nights, they have their family dinner at the country club. The house is empty except for me. That conversation set our plan in motion the next Tuesday, while the Sterlings were enjoying their weekly family dinner. Genevieve, Ashley and I sat in a car down the street from their mansion. Hilda had let us in through the service entrance. Remember, Genevieve whispered, checking our hidden cameras. We need concrete evidence, bank records, emails, anything that proves the fraud. The house was huge and eerily quiet as we followed Hilda upstairs. My hands shook as she retrieved the key from its hiding place. Eleanor's office was exactly what you'd expect, all dark wood and expensive artwork, but it was what we found inside that made my blood run cold. Filing cabinets full of documents. Each drawer is labelled with a woman's name. Previous victims. My name was on the newest folder inside with details about my family, my job, and my finances. They'd been planning this for years, long before Julian even met me. Look at this, Ashley gasped, opening Eleanor's laptop. Hilda had given us the password emails to their lawyers, planning each wedding disaster. They've got scripts planned, reactions, everything. But the real shock came when we found the hidden safe behind a painting. Inside were USB drives, each containing videos, recordings of them planning their schemes, laughing about their victims, counting their money. Got you, I whispered, copying everything we could find. Suddenly Ashley's phone buzzed. They're leaving the club early. Hilda's text read, get out now. We scrambled to put everything back exactly as we found it. Our hearts racing just as we slipped out the service door. We saw headlights turning into the driveway. Safe in our car, we looked at each other, breathing hard. Did we get enough? I asked. Genevieve was already scrolling through the files on her laptop. We got more than enough, but Scarlett, she looked up at me, her face serious. What's on these drives? It's bigger than just wedding scams. They're involved in international money laundering, this is going to be huge. What we didn't realise then was that we just pulled the first thread that would unravel not just the Sterling scheme, but an entire criminal empire, and they had no idea what was coming. Back at my apartment, we spread out our findings across the floor. The more we dug through the files, the bigger and scarier this whole thing became. What we thought was just a cruel family-running wedding scams turned out to be the tip of the iceberg. Look at these transactions, Genevieve pointed to her laptop screen. They're using the wedding scandals as cover for moving huge amounts of money every time there's public drama. They're quietly transferring millions through their charity foundation. Ashley, who worked in finance, leaned in closer. These numbers don't make sense for a family business. They are moving money for other people, dangerous people. My hands trembled as I opened another file. Guys, I called out, my voice shaking. I found something about Julian. Inside was a spreadsheet, a list of women, their professions, family connections, and net worth. My name was there, along with notes about my family's media connections. Perfect target for Phase 3 expansion. I read aloud father's media contacts, crucial for next stage. They weren't just targeting me, they were planning to use my family's connections. Just then, my phone lit up with a text from Julian. Missing you, baby mum's worried about you, let's talk tomorrow. They're getting impatient, Genevieve warned. We need to move fast before they suspect anything. Ashley grabbed her notebook. Okay, what exactly do we have? Let's list it. Evidence of planned wedding scandals, proof of money laundering, the lists of previous victims, banking records showing fraud, videos of them planning everything, Hilda's witness statement. But how do we use it? I asked. If we go to the police, they'll just use their connections to bury it. Genevieve finally smiled, a glint of confidence returning to her. That's why we're not going to the police just yet. Remember my FBI contact? He's been building a case against their bigger operation for months. We just handed him the missing pieces. So, what's the next move? Ashley asked, her voice filled with concern. I stood up, looking at the piles of evidence scattered across the living room floor. We give them exactly what they want, a broken, scared ex who's ready to negotiate. But this time, we'll be recording everything. The plan came together quickly. I would agree to meet with Julian and Eleanor at their house, wearing a hidden camera. The FBI would be listening in, ready to catch them incriminating themselves. But first, we needed to make them believe I was desperate. Call him back, Genevieve advised, her tone serious. Sound weak? Emotional make them think they've won. With trembling hands, I dialed Julian's number. He picked up on the first ring. Julian, I said, forcing my voice to crack. I think I'm ready to talk. Baby, that's great. His voice dripped with fake concern. Mom and I have been so worried. Come over tomorrow and we can sort this whole thing out. As I hung up, Ashley hugged me tight. Are you sure about this? It's dangerous. I touched the fading bruise on my cheek, remembering the coldness in Julian's eyes when he hit me. They've hurt too many women. It ends with me. What we didn't know at the time was that the Sterlings had their own plans for our meeting plans that would force us to think fast and put everything on the line. The next morning, I dressed carefully, a simple black dress, minimal makeup, and my hair pulled back. I needed to look defeated. The FBI had fitted me with a tiny camera disguised as a necklace pendant and a matching earring with a microphone. Remember, Miller Torres had said during our briefing, we need them to explicitly talk about the fraud. Get them to admit to planning the wedding incident and the financial schemes. Now, standing at the Sterlings' front door, my heart was pounding so hard I was afraid the microphone might pick it up. Julian opened the door, his face a perfect mask of concern. Scarlett, sweetheart, he said, reaching for me, but I flinched away, refusing to act this time. Come in. Mum's waiting in the study. I followed him inside, my mind racing. Eleanor sat like a queen in her expensive leather chair, the same room where we had uncovered all their evidence just days ago. My eyes flickered to the painting that concealed the safe, now empty. Thanks to us. Sit down, dear, Eleanor said, her voice honey-sweet. You look terrible. This whole situation has been so unfortunate. I perched on the edge of the couch, playing with my necklace nervously. I don't understand what happened. Everything was perfect. Well, Eleanor leaned forward. Let's talk about making this right. Our lawyers have drawn up some papers if you sign them agreeing not to discuss what happened, and withdrawing any accusations about Julian reaction. We can make sure you're well compensated. Compensated? I whispered, encouraging her to continue. Julian sat next to me too close. It's a generous offer, Scarlett, more than fair, just like we did with the others. Julian, Eleanor's sharp voice cut him off. A flash of anger crossed her face before the sweet smile returned. What my son means is, we want to be fair the others. I looked up, letting tears fill my eyes. You mean this has happened before? The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Eleanor's smile turned cold. Listen carefully. Scarlett, you have two choices. Sign the papers and walk away with a nice settlement. So, she shrugged, face the consequences. Are you threatening me? Of course not, dear. But remember, we have evidence of you attacking me at the wedding. Your unstable behaviour. Your false accusations. It would be a shame if that affected your father's media company, wouldn't it? Got them. The threat was exactly what we needed. But then Julian grabbed my arm, his fingers digging in painfully. Stop playing games, Scarlett, he growled. Sign the papers or we'll destroy you, just like all the others do. You think Camille or Genevieve could stand against us? We crush them. Julian Eleanor warned, but he was too angry to stop. You are perfect for this, he continued. Your family connections, your reputation, everything we needed for the next phase, the wedding scandal, was just the beginning. Suddenly the door burst open. Miller Torres led a team of FBI Millers into the room. That's enough, Julian and Eleanor Sterling, you're under arrest. The look on their faces, shock turning to rage, was something I'll never forget. As the Sterlings were led away in handcuffs, Eleanor turned to me, her composure finally cracking. You little... she snarled, her voice dripping with venom. You have no idea what you've done. But I did know. I had stopped them from hurting anyone else. The weeks following their arrest were a whirlwind. News of their crimes exploded across local media, and soon national networks picked it up. The Sterlings' wedding scam empire was exposed, and headlines flooded the news. I sat in my living room with Ashley and Genevieve, watching the coverage. 17 victims identified, the reporter announced. The Sterlings' scheme involved orchestrating dramatic wedding scandals to cover massive financial fraud operations. Look at this, Ashley said, holding up her phone. More women are coming forward. The Sterlings didn't just target brides, they ran similar schemes through their charity events and business partnerships. Genevieve squeezed my hand. You did it, Scarlett. You did what none of us could. But it wasn't over yet. The trial was the hardest part. Sitting in that courtroom, feeling Julian's cold stare as I testified, and seeing Eleanor's face turn to stone as I detailed their schemes backed by the mountain of evidence we had gathered. Ms. Davies, their lawyer attempted to undermine my testimony. Isn't it true that you broke into the Sterlings' home to steal private documents? I sat straight, my voice unwavering. No, I was invited in by their housekeeper, Hilda, who was tired of watching them destroy innocent lives. Everything we had found proved their long history of exploitation. The evidence was overwhelming. Bank records showing millions in laundered money, videos of them planning their schemes, and Hilda's testimony about years of witnessing their crimes. One by one, other victims came forward to share similar stories. The day the verdict was read, the courtroom was packed. Guilty on all counts, the judge announced. Julian and Eleanor's perfect facades finally shattered completely. This isn't over, Eleanor screamed as they were led away. But it was over. They were sentenced to 15 years in prison, their assets frozen, and their empire crumbled. Standing outside the courthouse with Ashley and Genevieve, I felt lighter than I had in a long time. What now? Ashley asked. I looked at the group of women who had testified with us, our bond formed through this ordeal. Now we heal, I said, and we help others. And that's exactly what we did. Together with Genevieve and other survivors, we started a support network for victims of fraud and domestic abuse. We named it Phoenix Rising because, like the mythical bird, we had all risen from the ashes of what the Sterlings had tried to destroy. 1 year later, I stood in front of a room full of women at our first Phoenix Rising conference. Your story isn't over just because someone tried to write your ending, I told them. You can always write a new chapter. Looking out at those faces and seeing the hope replacing the fear in their eyes, I realised something. The Sterlings hadn't destroyed me. They had helped me find my strength, my purpose. That horrible wedding day hadn't ended my story, it had started a whole new one. Ashley found me after my speech. Who would have thought, she smiled, that slap at your wedding would lead to all this? I touched the necklace around my neck, no longer a camera, just a simple phoenix pendant. Sometimes the worst moments lead us exactly where we need to be. As I drove home that evening, I thought about that terrified bride in her wedding dress and how far I had come. The Sterlings had tried to break me, but instead they had made me unbreakable. And now I was helping others find their strength too. That's the thing about hitting rock bottom, the only way left is up. And sometimes, when you rise, you help lift others with you. Can you still stand tall when everything you thought was true shatters? And how far are you willing to go to make sure no one else falls into the same trap? What began as a fairy tale wedding quickly unravelled into a nightmare, not because of anything I could control, but because of the manipulative, dangerous game played by my now ex-fiancé, Julian, and his mother, Eleanor. They orchestrated a series of public humiliations as part of a larger scheme to target women for financial gain. As the truth came out, it wasn't just about the betrayal, it was about exposing a web of lies and fraud that spanned years. With the help of Genevieve and Ashley, I gathered enough evidence to bring them down, but not without first enduring the deepest betrayals and threats imaginable. From a perspective of resilience, Scarlett's transformation throughout the story is incredible. At first, she's just a bride, excited for the future. And by the end, she's become a fierce advocate for justice, exposing not just personal betrayal, but an elaborate, financially driven scheme. Scarlett's courage to stand up to Julian and Eleanor, and ultimately to fight back with evidence rather than retreat into shame, is what makes her story so empowering. She takes control of her narrative, turning her painful experience into a catalyst for positive change, not just for herself, but for other women who had been victims of the Sterlings' manipulations. What does it take to turn a devastating personal betrayal into an opportunity for growth and justice? And can we find healing in helping others who've been hurt just like we have? Have you ever had to turn a heartbreaking situation into something empowering? What did you do to reclaim control? Share your story below your strength might just inspire someone else to find theirs.